Matthew from Maddie's Auto in Niagara, Diagnostic Saturday here. So, what we have here is a 2017 Ford F-150. This is actually the one that I did the transmission repair to, back for another issue. This customer had this baby towed in because massive coolant leak. And if you own a Ford, pay attention. And this also reminds me of a story from my former employer. We'll get to that shortly. But basically, I have the pressure tester on the cooling system. You can kind of see, it may be tough in the video, but there is just coolant sprayed all over the top here. And what Ford likes to do, or what Ford has been doing on these 3.5 EcoBoosts and their 5 liters, is they have a lot of these plastic T connections here. This specifically, this line assembly, which you can get the individual lines. This is from the heater core. Now, if I turn up the pressure, we can hear the pressure and the air escaping. You can see it right there on the T. When I move this bottom one and push it in and out, you can tell it's separated, just spraying coolant everywhere. So Ford has those plastic connections, just garbage, because that plastic connection is on right out of the thermostat. They have a plastic connector down by the oil cooler there, tucked way down in there. That is a prone failure point for Ford. And this guy is left not with the vehicle able to drive, because obviously you're going to overheat the hell out of the engine with a massive coolant leak from that. So point to this video, when I started looking up parts, I can get the OEM factory connectors from Bergstrom Ford and I can have them shipped up here. However, the T's are still going to be plastic, and guess what's going to fail down the road? And this customer doesn't want that. I know he was asking about replacing other connections, but which I'm, again, not necessarily a fan unless we have something. I'll do what he wants. But so I started looking at parts, and basically we have here on the computer screen, this is going to be a Dorman. And again, I have said Dorman is hit or miss, but Dorman, basically we have an aluminum T on this heater line assembly, which is fairly reasonably priced. It's right around what the dealer would charge, but it's going to have an aluminum T in there and hopefully be preventing failure like that with plastic cracking. That Tahoe that just left here this last week, that had a plastic fitting that GM had been using for years on the heater core. Plastic in engines, the heat cycles up and down, they don't necessarily mix. And these Fords, a very, very common failure. There's O-rings inside of those plastic connections, especially if the O-ring doesn't fail. Usually the plastic is getting brittle and cracking over the years. And again, this is just a 2017. I mean, 9 years old, but you would think they'd be building stuff to last a little longer than that. So we'll talk to him, get parts ordered. But my story, so I worked for these yahoos in town, and this little cap that fits on the coolant reservoir, the surge tank for Ford. When I was working for them, we had plenty of this stuff coming in. I have a range of special tools. I have a cap that goes for my pressure tester and my vac and fill for GM vehicles, because obviously I came from GM. The black one fits on almost everything. Ford, in all their wisdom, decided to come out with a different thread and pitch or whatever back in the day, I think starting with their later Escapes. And this is a pricey little tool. This little thing I think was well over $200 from Snap-on. But if you want to pressure test the system completely and make sure you're going after what you're going after, special tools like that matter. And the one owner at the last place that I worked for was, again, just a penny pinching cheap motherfucker. When it came to buying tools, if they weren't using mine, which was fine, they wouldn't spend the money. They wouldn't spend millionaires making millions at that place. They didn't pay decent wages, wouldn't cover insurance for the employees, wouldn't do all that other stuff, wouldn't cover a $200 tool to make sure that you have it dialed in, be able to not even test the cooling system, but also vac and fill the cooling system properly. Because vac and filling, I can tell you, is really important on these newer engines with all the different coolant passages and everything else. When you pull a good vacuum and you A, make sure it's sealed, and B, make sure you get it completely filled. But again, he was too busy tripping over razor blades and counting paper clips, making millions to spend the money to get the proper tools to get the vehicles in and out. Well, guess what? At Maddie's Auto Repair, I own it. I get to do things different, and I've done things different from day motherfucking one, and that's why I am highly successful. So make it a great Saturday.